Hello Buttercups, welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is a bit of a surprise, but I need to talk about The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I am just going to show a picture of the book cover because I gave my husband's book copy back to him and I don't want to go downstairs to get it. Sorry, I'm lazy. But I think everyone knows the book, or at least they've heard of Ernest Hemingway, and the cover is pretty, but this particular copy, I don't know if it completely matches the story. And then again, there are other book covers for The Sun Also Rises that doesn't really match whatsoever the story within the pages of the book, so it doesn't even matter. But The Sun Also Rises, this is what we're going to talk about. Now, it's 251 pages as per my copy, and I tried it out because it was short. That's the T. I was like, okay, well, it's not even 300 pages. I'm going to give this a go. There was the book about the sea or ocean or whatever. I'm sure y'all can leave me the actual title in the comments, that I hated. I didn't finish it. I don't even know how far I got in. It was not that far. And I just DNF'd it. I said bye-bye. And so I took a long break from Ernest Hemingway. And then I saw that there was a book that's short and not so sweet, but short, and so I gave it a go. And as I was reading it, I was speaking to my husband about this novel, so I'm going to be talking about what we talk about regarding this book. Now, he has multiple history degrees, and he knows a lot about World War I, so this is the after effects of World War I and what you would call the lost generation. I saw a lot of people crapping on The Last Generation in the Goodreads reviews for this book. I get it. I understand. However, let's talk about what that really means. Now, we have World War I. Why did we go to war? Just ask yourself that question. It really wasn't for any sort of noble cause. So you've had millions upon millions of people, men, on both sides die. For what? Okay. And this was when technology really pushed forward in many of those deaths, and trench warfare really amped up. And therefore, because of the technology of warfare and the situations of trenches, which were disgusting, and the overall feeling for many soldiers is that they are wasting their lives for what? Yeah, really, for what? He watches so many World War I and World War II documentaries, and I really can't come up with a legitimate reason. Why did we go to World War I? It was not for a noble cause. Now, there are reasons, but it's not good enough for all those millions of men that were killed or injured. So we have the lost generation, which was, there's no such thing as PTSD, and you're a wussy if you think that World War I was horrible and you have, shell shock. It was very well known that a lot of the men had shell shock, but you don't talk about it, right? And it's only legitimate shell shock if you are sputtering and shaking and hiding in a closet naked, like you are having a complete and utter meltdown, and you can't deny that, and your family and your friends can't deny it. So for the millions of men that kind of sort of had it together, but not really, that would be considered the lost generation. And you also are counting the women that, probably some people will disagree with that, but you're also counting, I would count, the women that have to put up with these men. Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna say it. You're at a certain point, you're putting up with these men who, just like in this novel, drinking, doing drugs, treating people like utter trash, and are just overall unstable, very angry, very depressed. And from all of that, they treat people badly. This is the conundrum that Ernest Hemingway is writing about. You're not supposed to really like anyone in The Sun Also Rises. But this is the aftermath of World War I. Now, are there men and women that handled World War I better mentally and emotionally, and so they're not treating people like trash, and they're not drinking down their feelings and all that stuff? Absolutely. But it was enough men and women, mainly men, where they were so traumatized, but you don't talk about it, and there's no such thing as PTSD, and you have to have just a complete mental breakdown for it to be considered shell shock. And if, you know, oh, you're feeling sad and angry about what happened, get over it. That was basically the mentality. I understand. Do I agree that you can act like that? No. But at that time, kind of limited of what you can and do about your PTSD, because it didn't exist, right? So you're not supposed to like basically any of them. I think there are a couple of characters, not necessarily the main characters, side characters that are cool, like the Spaniards that are bullfighters. Whether or not you agree with the bullfighting, I don't agree, but I'm saying the actual characters, like Romero, he's cool. You know what ruined it, the book for me? And I didn't rate it. I should have said that in the beginning. I didn't rate it because I have no freaking idea what to rate it. And that's usually the case with classics and nonfiction. But Bill and Mike, so freaking annoying. And like, that's the point, but I'm like, I can't do it. So these are all Americans, though Brett, the only female, might be English or half English and half American. I wasn't completely clear on that. Leave your comments if you know. But she was Lady Ashley. But then she got a divorce from her husband, who's a lord, and so she no longer is, after a certain point in the book, a lady. So she's just Brett for the rest of the book. Now, I would say Brett is number 3 in annoyance because she just is very manipulative. And you do also, as my husband noted, that you have to take the, you know, all of his female characters with the knowledge that Ernest Hemingway, was very sexist. So I gave her a number 3 slot. Okay, the worst is Bill, then Mike, then Brett, then Jacob, and then Cohen. I felt really bad for Cohen. He is a Jewish boxer, and also, did he go to Princeton? He went to an Ivy League school. That's where he was boxing, and he went into war when he got hurt. It's not specified, but we can see hints of that something was damaged with his genitalia, and that happened to many, many men. So it's not like a rare occurrence, but they're still gonna be shitty about it. So all of them are making fun of Cohen for the majority of the book, and I'm like, then why are you friends with him? That was the question that I was posing to my husband every like 15 pages. If they don't like Cohen or Bill or whatever, why are you friends? And I'm just looking at it as, like, you all are not okay. And they're not. None of them are okay. They have a lot of problems. You could probably say that they're all alcoholics because they drink, and then they're drunk, and then they get into fights with other people and themselves, and they say horrible things, and they just hold on to that. And when they're not drinking, they're angry or depressed because they were in World War One. And then Brett had to deal, in a sense, with all of her male friends and relatives in the war. But she didn't see combat, but she's also a little messy, messed up. Not as much as the men. She is manipulative. Mike and Bill are just outright nasty. Cohen is trying to figure out his life after damage to his body and people not liking him, which, Cohen, you gotta go, which he does go at the semi-end of the book. I'm like, thank you, finally. And he does punch, was it Bill, Mike, or both? I love that. Finally, thank you. And he does beat up someone else, which wasn't entirely that man's fault, but we'll get to that when we're talking about Brett. Jacob is very passive-aggressive, and here's the connection with Brett and everyone. It's basically like she is playing all of them. She'll flirt with them, and then when at a certain point she doesn't like it, then she's like, oh my god, you're bothering me. Oh, you're so annoying. Please go away. And then it's just a cycle over and over again. And she does this with Jacob and Cohen the most. At first, in the beginning of the book, she's married to a lord. She's about to get divorced because he's divorcing her. I get it. Then she is like with a count, and they're in Paris, so she's, hanging out with a count. And then we learn that she is also flirting and kissing with Jacob, because this is from Jacob's point of view. And then she's also flirting and possibly kissing Cohen. And then they go to Spain to see the bullfighting, and then she's flirty kissy with Jacob again, and also a little bit with Cohen, but then she's pulling back because she's getting annoyed at him because he's so depressing. And it's like, yeah, his genitals are, I don't know where they are. Wouldn't you be depressed, Brett? Okay, that's fine, whatever, Brett. And then so Cohen leaves, and there's like also like flirting and possibly kissy with Mike and Brett. Like, girl, we're not even done. Then she gets with a bullfighter named Romero, and she just randomly runs off with him, and she ditches the other 4 guys that are supposedly her best friends, but then she just leaves, and they're like, okay, interesting. And then she calls up Jacob. It's not actually a call, but it's a tippity tap. I don't know what it's called. The tippity tap. We're fine. We're just moving on, and don't laugh at me. I'm laughing at myself. It's okay. Telegram. It's a telegram. She telegrams Jacob while he's enjoying the beach by himself, and I think that would be more healing than hanging out with a bunch of messed up people, honestly. But she's saying in the telegram, please help me. So he goes all the way to where she is and saves her, but Romero is already gone. And so she just like weeping and fawning over Jacob. Oh my god, thank you so much for coming. And then they head out, and they're going to go back to Paris. And so at the end is a very great line, though I don't 100% know why, but my husband has theory on it, where Brett is saying, oh, I just have to, get involved with Mike. He's good. and probably he has money. And she's just going on about Mike. But then she pauses and she leans against Jacob, and she's just like, I wish we could be together, Jacob. Like, why can't you? But whatever. Don't know. And so Jacob, the last line in the book is, yes, isn't it pretty to think so? That's actually a very strong ending. Props to Ernest Hemingway. You wrote very messed up and just annoying characters that I couldn't really relate to, and I was not interested in most of them, but you did end it pretty well. Now, the thought process of why can't they be together? This is my husband's idea, also because he got it from another scholar and he agrees with it, where Brett is very manipulative and she is with, in this 251-page book, like 5 men, and Ernest Hemingway is portraying Brett, the only woman. There are some other women, but they don't stay around for long. But the main character, she's best friends with 4 men, and that's really weird, but they're all writers, so it's like okay in a way during this time, but not really. It's okay. Like, it's a weird situation. Also, like, war ended and people were like, I don't give a shit. A lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, especially this group and especially artists, are like, I don't give a shit. I will do what I want. Chugging back freaking beers and wine until they're just drunk in public and making a ruckus. I don't care. I was part of World War I and you can't stop me because I messed up, and this is what I can do. I will drink because, yeah, that was basically it. They were put through World War I, especially the men, and they came out alive, but they were severely damaged mentally, emotionally, and physically, you know, if they survived. And so a lot of them were like, I will do what I want to do. And there was also a sense of women thinking the same, and that would be Brett. Now, does Ernest Hemingway agree with that? I don't know. I would say maybe not, because he is a known sexist, and he does not write Brett very well. I had to just take a pause, and I'm like, okay, like, yeah, I know he does not like Brett, because this whole situation of her manipulating all of these men is just weird. And so what my husband said was, the idea is that she is getting different things from these different men, and for Jacob, it's she can call him at any time and he will save her. Doesn't matter where. Like, he took a train somewhere to save her, but Romero was already gone. So, like, how much are you really saving her? I digress. Mike and her ex-husband has money. Cohen is, I was getting the sense that Cohen just really adored her, and she liked the adoration and the attention up to a certain point. Didn't like that he was depressed, and probably they couldn't have sex. So then I think when she realized that, dropped Cohen like a hot potato. And then the Count probably also had money, but he was also like partying a lot. She thought that was fun. I don't know, she flirted with Bill a little bit, but Bill's annoying. Bill can jump off a cliff. I don't care about Bill, he's a twat. Not sure what you saw in Bill, Brett, but that's probably why it was like maybe like a couple lines where they were kind of flirty, but that was about it. Brett also was like, ugh, yeah, no. So I agree with her on that one. And for, 20, 25 years, they have all been friends and they survived World War I. And so the idea is, no matter what, not just for Brett, but for all of them, there is something there that is safe-ish in a way. And if you can hold on to that, like, the group is 5 people, that is amazing that those people, especially the men, survived World War One, and they went to war and they came back not themselves. They came back different people, messed up people, but at least they survived. And so why hang out with other people, and why get help in whichever way you can? Because I'm sure, let's say Jacob hung out with a different group, they would possibly be asking, why are you already drunk? Like, it's a little embarrassing. Slow it down. But they don't do that in, that group. Now, they'll do it, like, after everyone is really, really drunk and they're, acting a fool in public. But it's not, let's prevent things from happening. It's, oh my God, everyone's drunk and people are trying to fight each other. Maybe we should calm down. They don't really think things through all that well, unfortunately. There is little impulse control when it comes to drinking and saying horrible things to each other. But other than Cohen punching out Bill and I think Mike as well, there's not really fighting, which, okay, they have the impulse control not to, beat each other up in public. Good for them. But low bar for everything else. So I get where Ernest Hemingway is probably coming from. I don't know much about this particular book or if he said anything, but the scholars and have said that it really is, you're not supposed to like them, which I get. Yes, I do. And it's really to show what the lost generation was like. And this is a mix of different people that Ernest Hemingway knew or was close with. Also a little bit of himself as well. Maybe a little more than just a little bit of himself. I think everyone knows a brief history. He was in World War One and it messed him up. And at the end, he was an alcoholic and he was doing not so great. And then he was also doing drugs as well. And at the end, he killed himself. He could not do it anymore. And that would be the lost generation in a nutshell, unfortunately, after World War One. I was wondering, what is the arc, what's the story, what's the plot of this book about halfway through? And my husband was like, it's not really a plot book, it's a character-driven story about the lost generation. And then it made sense. I think it's very sad and unfortunate that this was a common occurrence. People so messed up that they're just barely getting through. And I am glad that we do now have the wherewithal to say, yeah, you have been in combat and you saw very horrible things and your friends died around you. Let's get you into therapy. Let's get you on medication. Let's work through this, because that is an option now. It was not an option back then. It's an option now. Is it perfect? No. But there's not a lost generation of millions upon millions of men where they are suffering because of World War One and nothing's really done about it, unless, you are really shell-shocked and you can't hide it because you're running around in your underwear screaming obscenities and thinking that you're in the trenches. It has to be very, very obvious, and then you'll get help. But for the majority of men after World War One, that was not the case. And so how do you deal with it? You deal with it with alcohol, drugs, sex, binging on food, just angry all the time, beating people up, doing crazy stunts to get an adrenaline rush like what you felt during the war, things like that. I would say don't read it as a plot-driven book. It is definitely a character-driven book, and it is not meant really to be a story that you connect with the characters and you like them. Maybe you like them, but I didn't like them. I think now we wouldn't like them or relate to them. However, when this book was published in 1926, I think there would be a lot of men and even women that would see themselves in these characters. And so that's just over time, things change with literature. So back when he published this book, it was, I'm sure, cathartic in some way, as best as he could during this time period. And also, in a way, cathartic, or at least, oh wow, I'm seen in these characters. And then as the lost generation grows up and passes away, then people aren't understanding The Sun Also Rises, because it's not really for them. It's not for me, you know, and even it's not for my husband, even though he's in the military, but he understands it a bit more. And he explained it to me, so now I understand it. But that just happens, I think, naturally with older works, especially something that is very much tied in with history, which would be the history of World War I and the aftermath of World War I. Thank you so much for watching my book review on The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I'll see you in the next video. Read, write, do whatever you need to do for self-care. Bye!